Chris, man, anytime I hear that music, I get so excited.
Gets me
Like,
going.
man, I just love it, man. It gets me
Love
in the
it.
mood. I know that it's a Tuesday night. I'm feeling right. Stepping into the dojo with one of my good friends here, Chris the Shifu. Look, before we get moving on, I just have to say, you need to subscribe to the content. We have moved channels. We've been bumped to the main channel right now. This is the last week that we're going to do the simultaneous launch on the Grindhouse and the main channel. So if you're still watching us on the Grindhouse, make sure that you subscribe over to the main channel so that you don't miss a thing. I got to talk about our Substack too, because Chris, look, this last post that we hit, I'm just so humbled and so honored and so thankful for all of you who have taken time out of your day to subscribe, to read the content, to listen to the content. It's truly remarkable to see just how much this community has grown in such a short amount of time. We're not even a year into this yet, and I really love the community that we've developed, from the supporters that we've had behind us this whole time, and for the friends that we've made along the way. So from Chris and myself, from the dojo, we just want to thank all of you for everything that you've contributed. Substack is rolling. Like I said, last post got over 1,300 views, and we got 26 new subscribers. Look, we're hitting you with like 3 staggered articles every week at a minimum 3, plus on top of what we're doing here. So a lot of free content. Make sure that you're tapped in. But my guy, Chris, dude, how you doing today? How you doing,
I'm
Shifu?
doing great, man. It's lovely to be back. That music gets me amped up. Love all the support, and we always give shout outs to all of our friends and followers, and we appreciate all the love. But I also want to give a big shout out to the haters this week. I've seen Devy Fusu crash out on Twitter since the last time we met here together, and I know that hate brings the views. So if you're a hater, listen to this episode. Tell me why I'm wrong. I've been trying to ruffle some feathers all week. I've been going on Discord. I've been going on Twitter, shaking the tree a little bit, seeing what falls out. Come on, haters. We need a little bit of hate too. I want the people to tell me why I'm wrong, besides just the people on Reddit who hate everything. So get some haters in the comments. Tell me why I'm an idiot. There's a lot of names on this RB tiers list that we're going to talk about, and you might not like any of them. So tell me why I'm wrong and tell me who we're missing.
There we go. I love it, Chris. What you guys don't know, a little peek behind the dojo. Chris thrives on this stuff. Like, he needs hate, like he needs air.
I love the trolls. I like to be a troll, and I love to be amongst the trolls.
There it is, my little troll.
Love it.
Okay, so what do we got tonight? Go ahead and tell the people.
Great one. So we last time we reviewed our wide receiver belt tiers, which was our first ever episode back in the summer. We're doing it again with our running backs. Next week will be quarterbacks. Well, 2 weeks will be quarterbacks. So we're revisiting. We dropped a lot of people. There's a lot less of a consensus in the dojo on these top 12 running backs this week. Last week, I think there was a lot of similarities in our wide receivers. I think that makes a little bit of sense when you look at the overall landscape of Devy and where the wide receivers are right now and where the running backs are, because there's some definite cream at the top of the running backs, but there's a lot of nuance in between. There's the middle tiers, in the middle of that entire chunk of RBs after the top handful is just a mess right now, right? There's not a consensus. We've seen guys like CJ Baxter fall off our tiers, Nick Singleton. We've seen some other guys rise into it. So we're going to go over a whole bunch of different names for you here today, and I can't wait to talk about them.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like, you laid it out pretty well. The running back landscape throughout Devy right now is pretty bleak. But that doesn't mean that there's not talent to be excited about. So I really am ready to talk about some of these guys. And I do just want to remind the audience that this is not like our Devy rankings overall, but the color belt, it's kind of like a fun set of criteria that we use to rank Devy running backs and how they're setting up for their respective drafts, which ultimately, right, is the goal of Devy. You want to roster high-end NFL assets. So before the season, mid-season, and postseason, we're going to be providing these for you just as a spotlight for some of these guys who are rising and on the right draft trajectory, but it's not necessarily an entire ranking. So once we pump out our rankings officially, you might see some differences here. So don't push back and say, oh, how can you have this guy so low? Well, he fits the type of criteria that we're going to be looking at. Speaking of criteria, Chris, let's go ahead and let's start with our first belt.
Absolutely. We're going to start again at the bottom with the white belt.
Yes, and so white belt. I'll go ahead. You can pause your screen here. I am going to read each belt criteria for you. So starting there at the white belt, that's the emerging back who's showing first signs of life. True freshmen, injury returnees, or depth chart climbers beginning to flash traits that demand attention. They are past the pure projection stage and starting to carve meaningful reps. The tools are there, and now it is about trust, touches, and time. These are the developmental stocks worth holding through volatility. So a lot there, a lot in there, a lot goes into this criteria. So looking at mine, Chris, the first guy that I have here is Mr. Bo Jackson. Look, Bo, actually named Lamar, right? Whatever he goes
Great
by,
name.
all I know is I might start calling him. 6 foot, 217 pounds. He's rushed 94 times on the season, 608 yards, and 2 touchdowns. This is a guy, Chris, that we spotlighted in our offseason freshman fever episodes. And he didn't begin the season as the starter. It was CJ Donaldson. Remember, we thought maybe James Peoples would get some look. But Bo Jackson got his first start in week 6 after getting some spot work duty throughout the season. And since he's had that start, Chris, he hasn't looked back. I was comparing his numbers, his 608 yards, to someone like Jonah Coleman, who's a hot name in the Devy community right now. Jonah Coleman only has 645 yards compared to Bo's 608. So even though Bo Jackson has not been the starter on the depth chart for the entire year on this team, his talent, Chris, to me was evident the second you saw his first touch. His 608 yards leads the team by a wide margin, because I was looking at the team rushing numbers, and the second leading rusher on the team is CJ Donaldson with only 276. So that's a pretty wide margin for a guy who didn't get his first official start until week 6. And some pushback or some things that I've heard from people say is, well, yeah, of course he's going to have light boxes because he's got all that talent on the outside. And sure, when you got the best wide receiver in Jeremiah Smith out there and another first-round wide receiver talent in Carnell Tate on the outside, you're never going to see stacked boxes. But he runs with power. He's got a good blend of speed as well. Like against your Penn State Nittany Lions, he had a 51-yard rush. Week 2, I believe he had a 64-yard scamper. So he's a guy that really flashes that talent early. And I figured, like, as a true freshman doing what he's doing on a team that has national championship aspirations to be a starter and play at that level, man, it's exciting. And in terms of my Devy rankings, he's going to be much higher because of the youth, the good offense. All of those things are facilitating towards a future high-end draft pick at the running back position.
Yeah, absolutely. He's obviously on my tier belt here, white tier belt as well. Very excited about the future for him. We're seeing more out of him than I expected. I think back on our freshman fever episode, I talked about, not really anticipating to see a whole bunch of him this year, but obviously he's kind of taking control of that backfield so far, as you mentioned. Just love the overall profile, the size and speed combination. He ran track in high school. He played baseball in high school. We love those multi-sport athletes because it means that you're committed. You want to get out there and you want to do as much as you can to show that you're an athletic person. And it gives you a little bit more of a diverse, background that can help you in a lot of ways when you're playing different sports and trying to be the best at your position. And in the case of baseball, base running is a talent that I feel like people are appreciating all the time, even at the MLB level and the fantasy baseball level. That's something that can really, contribute to the way that you're making cuts when you're a running back, or the way that you're reading the field a little bit, and the quick turns of the hips, the navigation of the pathways in front of you. And he's really shown that on tape. He's got that size and speed, as I mentioned. He's really tough to bring down with just arm tackles. Really just excited for the future of him, even though he is a Buckeye.
Even though he's a Buckeye, man. Look, way not to be biased against him and just recognize the talent. But I'm looking at that other guy in your white belt, Chris, and that's somebody that you've been high on for a while. So why don't you go ahead and tell me about Usman Kromah?
Absolutely, man. I still love the kid. He's not getting a ton of work so far this year. I was hoping to see a little bit more at this point in the season, but he does have 60 touches on the year. He's combined those 60 touches, catches and carries for 454 yards and a touchdown. And actually, if you go on PFF with we love PFF. We're always using that for different ratings and advanced stats and things like that. So if you set the minimums to about 50 carries, he's got an absolutely stellar grade on PFF. So really enjoying everything that he is showing so far this year. And when I talk about him and why I like him so much, I talked about this on our second episode, just absolutely phenomenal film in high school. He was clocked at 22.6 miles per hour in his sophomore season. So that was a bit long ago, sophomore year of high school, but that was second in the nation for any football player that year. That's fast, man. We're talking about some of these guys that we're going to talk on higher tiers being in like the 21 mile an hour range. 22 is lightning fast, dude.
That's insane.
And he's hurdling over guys. There was that clip that I talked about before of him hurdling a player and then immediately hitting the ground and doing a spin move to avoid the next tackle. I just think he's a supremely talented athlete. And I think that, honestly, Florida State should be utilizing him more this year. But when he's getting the chance so far, he's really showing out.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. Like, Florida State could use him right now. Gavin Sawchuk just isn't really getting it done. Tommy Castellanos is the second leading rusher on this team, and we need to see Cromot getting more touches. 6'1", 218 pounds. He's a freak out there, man, and he looks every bit of that. Like, honestly, in looking at him, he looks a little bigger than 218. He's just like a huge yoked monster out there. But in looking at his numbers, Chris, the thing that I found most impressive, because he's not getting a lot of work right now, but he has 8 catches for 144 yards, good for 4.11 yards per route run. His receiving depth, like, it's not like he's running, Texas routes out there, anything too nuanced out there. A lot of dump offs and screens, but they're getting this big giant beast the ball in space and just letting him go. And 144 yards on only 8 catches is really good. There's some running backs ranked here a little higher that don't even have that right now on a full season's worth of work. So shout out to Cromot, man. White belt would be the perfect place for him, because he is a true freshman out there, and he's a developmental stash, somebody that we truly believe in. So I think that's a great place to put him. 5th
highest ranked running back in the ACC if you set the minimum to 50 carries. That's what I was trying to say
Let's
earlier.
Go.
Yeah, very, very good. All right, so next up we have our yellow belt.
Yes, sir. Yellow belt is visible talent, uneven results. Running backs with physical upside or strong pedigree who have not yet found sustained rhythm in their role. They may pop on film or efficiency metrics, but lack steady usage or reliability. Their story at midseason is still potential. The question is whether opportunity or polish arrives first. The next few weeks will define their climb. So in reading that, man, I thought of Jadarian Price, 5'11", 210 pounds, like another stud there at running back. And while Jadarian Price might not be on Jeremiah Love's level yet, I think he's pretty damn close, man. You can't convince me that this kid would not be a high-level starter for, I don't know, literally any other team in the country. And I've heard that in the offseason, there were rumors that Price was offered a pretty significant NIL deal to transfer away from South Bend, but he turned down that deal to remain at Notre Dame. And I think the best part in hearing that, Chris, is like Jadarian Price is doing all the little things to help the team win. Like, he's going to be a willing blocker out there. I see him down the field blocking for wide receivers. Obviously, you see him with the kick return, right? Like the 100-yard return that he had versus USC that completely flipped the game there. So in this Notre Dame offense, we know, obviously, Jeremiah Love, he's going to be the dude there. Like, he's the primary back in the offense. But Jadarian Price has been ultra efficient with his touches. Let me frame it this way, Chris. Jadarian Price has 59 less rushing attempts than Jeremiah Love, but he still has a little over 6 yards per carry. And Jadarian Price has 9 touchdowns, which is only 4 less than what Jeremiah Love has on the season, on 59 less rushing attempts. So he still has some things to clean up. I've seen that he's fumbled 3 times already, which does lead the team. But the more I think about it, I feel like Jadarian Price is going to remain in school for that like final year of eligibility for his opportunity to be the man in this Notre Dame offense. Of course, things can change over the course of the season. If he's hearing good things from his agents, he could declare. But I just think that opportunity to be the man is going to be enough for him to say, you know what, I need to stay back. Would
Yeah,
you agree
absolutely.
with that, Chris?
Yeah, we were recently doing our top 25 2026 rookie rankings as part of an effort with a whole bunch of different organizations that's fallen under the player profiler belt there, but they got a bunch of guys from the dojo, from C2C, you know, people from all over, just to provide some rankings for these upcoming classes. And I was struggling a little bit to where I was going to put him in those rankings and among the RBs, because I do think he's probably best suited to go back. The thing that kept him off this top 12 for me, specifically for this episode, was the fumbling issue. But I do like what I see out of him when he's carrying the ball and not dropping it, you know. So I think he's a really talented running back. I think it would really benefit him to go back to school and try to be, you know, the lead dog for a little bit. You're right. It ultimately depends on what his agents are saying and where they think he's going to fall in this class. If he's got a decent shot to be a day 2 running back, I think that they're going to, you know, tell him that that's best for him. But I'm not sure that I really see that with where we're standing right now. But he was very, very close to being on this top 12 for me. And I think it's great to talk about him on the yellow tier, because there's a lot of what you said is absolutely correct. And I think that there's a good running back in there. Absolutely.
Yeah, he's going to be a steal for whatever team gets him. He, like Jeremiah Love, right? He has that blazing speed, but he's got like surprisingly good contact balance, and I've seen him run with power near the goal line. He does everything really well. But I especially, Chris, I loved his vision. I've seen him set up blocks well. I think it kind of points to what makes him such a good kickoff returner, being able to set up those blocks and move around. Like, that's really evident in the way that he runs the football. And man, if we get a chance to see this guy as the guy, maybe to pair with Anais Williams next year or whoever they got, because they got a bunch of, like, if Ohio State is currently the wagon and this pipeline for wide receivers, I think that Notre Dame's about to be that for running backs, because the talent that they have behind Jeremiah Love, behind Jadarian Price, even behind Anais Williams, they just got a lot of good talent there. So if he has a chance to be the number 1 guy there, oh man, that gets me so excited.
And of course it does. I have here on my yellow belt Nate Frazier, who is a guy that we both had on our belts back on episode 2 in the off season. But I still really like Nate Frazier, man. You know, it's been a bit of an up and down season for him so far. You could even call it mediocre, I think, right? But last game against Mississippi State, he exploded. He had 181 yards and a touchdown. And that was only on 12 carries, which I think highlights the ceiling that he's capable of, right? He's a very talented running back. Was PFF's number 1 graded running back in college last week. He's only a sophomore. He's on pace to have a pretty similar season to what he had in freshman year, which, you know, again, we could say maybe mediocre, because you'd like to see a little bit more growth in year 2. But I still like what I'm seeing, what he's putting on tape. I think he has an immense ceiling. We've talked before. Nick Saban said he was his personal number 1 running back in his high school class. He's got that 10.58, 100-meter speed. He's just fast as hell, man. He's got patience when he needs to be, and he's extremely explosive when he can be. He turns on the burners extremely quick. He has a knack for slipping through any holes that are made for him, and he doesn't waste any movement whenever he needs to find that hole. You know, I know everybody always wants to talk about Le'Veon Bell when they talk about patience. Not quite that level of patience, but you can see that he's reading the field well and waiting for holes to develop. And as soon as he sees a hole, he's taking the quick cuts and making it right upfield. And like I said, just turning those burners on really quick, man. Nice contact balance for a guy with his speed. Not very easy to trip up. He does have the capability to be used in the passing game, I think, even more than Georgia has done with him. If you look at some of his high school tape, he was absolutely dominating on some wheel routes. He kind of tracks the ball a little bit like a receiver does. He looks great out in space, you know, when they're getting him screen passes and things like that. He's tracking the ball well and turning really quickly to become a runner. I think there's a lot of untapped potential in him, and I'd like to see them utilize it a little bit more. So the up and down season, I think, is keeping him off of a lot of people's radars right now. He's fallen a little bit in the Devy community, but I love the upside that he has. And, you know, that's going to land him right here on our yellow belt. But I think, you know, he's still young. There's still time for him to develop and prove that he's one of the best running backs in the nation.
Yeah, he's a guy that's had like a sophomore slump, right? In the offseason, we had such high expectations for him. He was a purple belt for me in the offseason. I love his film. I love the way that he runs the football. I've said before, it's smooth like butter, just the way he kind of effortlessly glides and he can cut while maintaining like top end speed. That's what I've always loved about him. But I mean, he does have those red flags on his profile. He's another guy that had a bit of a fumbling issue going back to last season as well. And you saw this season his running mate Chauncey Bowens kind of start to take over. I believe he had an injury or he's been out, but so Nate Frazier has had that opportunity now, and he's had a couple of weeks with better production. He's starting to look a little better. I don't know if it was a lack of confidence from the fumbles and just it hasn't been exactly perfect, but we talk about all the time about letting that adversity shape you. So hopefully he learns and grows from it because the talent is there. So absolutely, it's a great call of which you said, like, don't give up on the talent just yet. He's still young. He's going to be a junior next year. You know, he'll have another year of eligibility. There's still time for this. He's very talented. I do think, Chris, that early in this season he may have been put in the doghouse. You know, just because of the fumble, and pun not intended there, by the way. But I do think that you know, Kirby Smart. I do think that Kirby Smart was a little frustrated with him, and like I said, Chauncey Bowens has looked well too. But so I think that they could be a really good tandem going forward. I do not think that Nate Frazier should be getting all of the carries anyways. He's a guy that does need to be complemented with another back there. And I look forward to seeing Georgia, like they're starting to get on a roll now. Gunnar Stockton's starting to play a lot better. And I think that they're going to implement that running game a lot more between the two. And hopefully in the passing game, like you said, because I totally agree, man. He needs to be utilized in the receiving game much more.
Absolutely, yeah. And we talked about the intangibles. Love that. By all accounts, he's a hardworking guy and very humble. So I think that if anybody has the ability to bounce back, it's him for sure.
For sure.
Moving on to our blue belt tier.
Yes. Blue belts, gifted runners on the cusp of proving it every week. They have flashed the vision, the burst, and contact balance of future lead backs, but have not yet delivered consistent command or output. Whether limited by rotation, scheme, or durability, the ceiling is clear. They simply need rhythm and opportunity to match their traits.
So one guy that I had on here who doesn't necessarily fit that, he fits that more with an asterisk, is Caleb Hawkins. Because Caleb Hawkins, the North Texas running back, he's down there with Drew Mestemaker. And, you know, Mestemaker's been getting a ton of buzz, and North Texas is looking fantastic, right? And he's the one leading the charge out of the backfield. The big asterisk there would be that he's not playing against absolutely phenomenal talent, right? However, that's not really a knock on him. He's doing everything he possibly can against this talent to make a name for himself. Ultimately, I would love to see him transfer and prove it against, you know, SEC competition, Big Ten competition, a little bit of a higher elevated, you know, defensive front that he's facing on a weekly basis. But he looks fantastic. He's PFF's number 2 running back in the nation this year, behind only Mr. Jeremiah Love, which I think speaks a lot to his overall talent and abilities. He's had 121 carries for 744 yards and 11 touchdowns after his nearly 200-yard monster game with 4 touchdowns last time they played against Navy. He's a yak machine. He's top 15 in the nation with 4.68 yak per attempt. His 47 missed tackles forced is 7th in the nation right now. All of the stats that we love are just absolutely shining through with this kid. He's getting some work in the passing game as well, with 24 receptions on the year for 3 touchdowns and 273 yards. So I think he looks like a stud. It is a little bit difficult to scout film just because sometimes there's just wide open holes. Like I said, the defensive competition isn't up to par yet. So we really need to see what he can do against better levels of competition, which is ultimately what keeps him capped from being on a higher tier, because the production itself is by all means somewhere in the purple to black belt range. But production against, you know, lesser competition doesn't equate the same way, right? So that's why he's a little bit of an asterisk there, because based on the format that we had for the blue belt, doesn't quite fit that. He's proved everything he needs to prove against this level of competition. I just need to see some more studs on the opposite side of the field against him. But if you're enjoying watching North Texas, you're scouting Drew Mestemaker, just make sure you take a little look at Caleb Hawkins as well.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do that, man. And you know what? I'm sure there's plenty of evaluators out there from other teams that have been watching North Texas. I think Mestemaker and your boy Caleb Hawkins here, which is somebody that the Josh, the Shinobi, in our Substack has highlighted before in some of his articles before. And of course, his last name is Hawkins too, so he pointed out that he loves that last name.
That's great. Yeah, and I have 2 Hawkins on my blue belt here.
Yeah, look at that. But I mean, Caleb Hawkins, he's somebody that I haven't watched a ton of, but I'm definitely looking forward to looking at that. And I think that there's been a blueprint set for some of these running backs. Like you could play against this lower level competition, enter the transfer portal, a la Ahmad Hardy this last season, right? Going to Mizzou, transferring up to the SEC and dominating, right? Like that blueprint has been set, and we'll see, is he more of a Mekhi Hughes or is he on the Ahmad Hardy level? It's a really good litmus test for these guys because, like you said, the competition isn't the greatest, but he's going to have a chance to go and possibly play against better competition, which will be a really good test for him. So I think that that's a good call. My first one on the blue belt, I have Mr. Hollywood Smothers, somebody that if you follow me on Twitter, if you're in there in the Discord, he's a dude that I haven't shut up about. And look, like I'm starting to tell Chris that I definitely got a type. Like I've said for fantasy, that gold with the running back position are these guys that are able to flip your week in one game. Like we just saw Devon Achane this last week, Jonathan Taylor, people like that in the NFL that have the ability to hit the home run. And that is just so many fantasy points on your roster. And that's what I see with Hollywood Smothers. If you like Isaac Brown, like I do, then you're going to love Hollywood Smothers because he wins in a lot of the same ways, very fast, and he's going to take one to the house. Like he's a threat to take one to the house on any given run. The difference between he and Isaac Brown is, well, Hollywood Smothers is a little bigger and he's way less hyped, but much none of the same. Looking at his numbers, Chris, he ranks 10th in the Power 4 with 825 rushing yards and 14th in missed tackles forced with 36. I think Hollywood Smothers, he's like a functional receiver on screens and dump offs. He's got 28 catches for 170 yards with a respectable 1.21 yards per route run. And I haven't heard a lot of people in the Devy space talking about Smothers. He's more so talking like C2C, CFF, things like that. So I wanted to be sure to give Smothers his flowers and talk about what he's been able to accomplish this season. I think that he profiles as like an excellent fit for any system that employs a heavy dose of outside run concepts where he's able to press the line and hit those cutback lanes and use his speed to rip off those long gains. The good thing for Hollywood Smothers is that exact offense is rampant in the NFL right now, right? Everybody's using the kind of modernized West Coast outside zone schemes. So he profiles as a guy that can fit any of those offenses. I think that as of right now, if I had to peg him in order of the draft, I would say that he's probably like a day 2 guy, probably late second round, third round, somewhere in there. But he's going to have an opportunity in these last couple of weeks of the season to really elevate his draft stock. So he's somebody that I'm watching with bated breath, hoping that he could take that next step because I just absolutely love watching this dude play.
Yeah, you nailed it. And little sneak peek, I actually have him a little bit higher because when we're talking about this stage of the game, the guys who I want to rank a little bit higher are the guys who I think have a path to true NFL success now. Devy's fun and it's great to watch these players in college and think about what they could be. But when we're getting this close to draft and we've talked about the 26 class not being as good as we expected, I think he's probably a top 5 back in this class. And I completely agree that there's a really good shot that he's a round 2 or round 3 pick. And he's going to have a chance to play pretty quickly in the NFL. So I really like this guy. You hit a lot of the metrics that I wanted to cover. I think he's very talented. He runs really smooth. He's a home run threat. He's a lot of fun to watch. So, sneak peek, I got him a little bit higher.
Okay, so my next one on this list, Chris, is Jordan Marshall. Jordan Marshall, man, this is a guy that I first came onto him last season. Last game for Michigan, the ReliaQuest Bowl, they had this upset win against Bama. I believe it was like a 19-13 upset victory over them. Jordan Marshall rushed for 100 yards. And remember, this is last season before Mr. Bryce Underwood came. Like Michigan was struggling with the forward pass. They were struggling to get any type of offensive production from the pass game. And in that ReliaQuest Bowl, they really relied on Jordan Marshall to get it done. which was nice to see because on the season he had only had 9 rushing attempts up to that point. And then in this game he had 100 yards and was just keeping the chains moving, had a couple nice chunk plays. He looked like that dude. And so I was like, all right, like next season, he's going to be that guy. And of course, we know Justice Haynes came in the transfer portal. And that really, at the start of the season, kind of relegated Marshall to more of a complimentary role. And Justice Haynes was performing great, right? But now with those injuries that we've seen with Justice Haynes, with him now out, opportunity has been there for Marshall. And he's flashed. Like he saw the moment, he took it, and he has not disappointed. I'm going to read some stats for you, Chris. In the last 4 games, Marshall's rushed for 68, 133, 110, and 185 yards. So in 4 games, Marshall's rushed for 496 yards and 5 touchdowns. That's just insane production. So he's got some of the best vision of anybody that I have in these tiers. And that's, to me, that's his superpower, that he mixes with that no nonsense type of running style, that prototypical always falling forward type of power runner. He blends that with that vision, dude, and he's just so good. I love watching this kid play. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, man, that's a fun backfield for sure. And he's another one that was very, very close to being on this list for me as well, because he looks great when he gets the opportunity. And in the last game against Purdue, Haynes didn't play. So he showed out, and you mentioned how great he's been lately. And that's absolutely true. He had I think a 54-yarder against Purdue last week. Looked phenomenal. I mean, you covered it. That's a fun backfield to watch. We're going to talk about another sneak preview here. We're going to talk a little bit about Justice Haynes here in a bit as well. And I think because Justice Haynes is getting so much buzz that a lot of people aren't really talking about Jordan Marshall, and he should be talked about. This is almost identical to the Jordan Love, Jadarian Price scenario, right? He looks fantastic. If he was in any other backfield by himself, I'm sure that people would be, a lot more on him. But right now he's sharing the backfield with another extremely talented running back. So there's a little bit of a cap on his overall Devy ceiling so far. But I think we're going to see him rise up a lot of people's rankings if he keeps having weeks like he's been having.
Yeah, man, he looks incredible. He runs with that power. I really want to find a comp for him, but I just have so much fun watching him. But before we move on to your guy, I'm going to talk about the last one in my belt here, Mr. Jaden Baugh. Now, you highlighted Usman Kroma earlier, 6'1", big dude. And this guy, Jaden Baugh, is built in much of the same mold. He's 6'1", 231 pounds of freak nasty muscle, man. I get excited when I see this dude run for Florida. At the beginning of the season, we did talk about him. He was on the Doak Walker Watch List Award. He made Bruce Feldman's Freak List because at that 231 pounds, man, they're saying this dude ran a 4.5 40. So, like, that's pretty freaky. Like, that's the athleticism that I look for in these guys. He runs with power, obviously. Like, he'll knock a dude down, and he may not have like elite breakaway speed, but he's got enough to take it to the crib. He's got enough to give you big chunk yardage. And what I love, Chris, 45 missed tackles forced on the season, which ranks 6th best in the Power 4. For further context, that's 2 more than Jeremiah Love has. So this man, 231 pounds, has 2 more missed tackles forced than Jeremiah Love. It shows what an athletic freak he is. You're going to hear me say that a lot about him. He's one that I fully expect to continue to rise in these color belt tiers. And look, we got to see what happens with this offense now with Billy Napier fired. Is he going to transfer? Is he going to stay? Like, that's always a question you have to ask when these guys' head coach leaves. So I don't know if you've been able to see much of him, but like, he just looks the part. He looks like a star to me.
I haven't watched enough, to be honest, but he was one of those guys when I was putting together my rankings. I had like 7 names that was in this tier of people that I'm like, man, I wish I could fit more people on the top 12, but unfortunately there's only 12 slots in your top 12. So I do think he's very talented. I know that Florida's had kind of a rough year in general. We've talked about Lagway before. We've talked about Dallas Wilson before. It's just been overall, I kind of just want to wash away this entire season for Florida and reevaluate next year, right? Because all these players, it seems like, are going through a bit of a tumultuous season right now, and I don't think it should reflect necessarily on all this young talent that they have and what the future holds for them. So I think he's a great guy to keep on your radar. Like I said, he's very close to this top 12 for me as well, and I love those guys with size and speed, without a doubt.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, he's still been very productive on the season. 747 rushing yards, like I said, 5 touchdowns. in that environment that hasn't always been the best this season for them, he's amongst some of the top in his peers in the Power Four. So I love the kid, man. I'm expecting a big year next season.
Same. Yeah, absolutely. Moving on to my last guy here on the blue belt tiers is Marcellus Hawkins. I mentioned there was another Hawkins involved here, and that's funny. I wasn't even thinking about Josh's last name when I was putting this together. I was like, here's the Hawkins tier. It's the Shinobi tier right now. Maybe Shinobi's only at a blue belt. We got to elevate him. But Hawkins is a guy who kind of came onto my radar when I was, everybody knows by now that I'm a bit of a homer, right? I was exploring a little bit. There was the rumors of James Franklin potentially going to Virginia Tech. So I was like, I got to dig into them a little bit more because they haven't been on my radar. I don't watch a ton of ACC. And I was concerned about the overall proximity of Virginia Tech to Pennsylvania. And I'm like, is he going to steal all of our recruits if he goes there? But I started breaking down some of their players and looking at some tape. And I really like Marcellus Hawkins. I think that he's one of those guys who's very sneaky right now. He's a great sleeper in the Devy field. He's a redshirt junior transfer from Central Missouri, 5'11", 219 pounds. He has 98 carries for 576 yards on the year, along with 10 catches for 72 yards and a touchdown. Not the flashiest stats, right? But when we're talking about blue belt, one of the things we talk about in there is maybe limited a little bit by scheme. And he's not even leading the team in rushing total number of carries. That would be their quarterback. Kyron Drones is their leading rusher. And Kyron Drones also has 8 touchdowns on the year rushing. So when you take the overall picture and you just kind of say, let's wash away some of these stats because of what they're doing down there and the way that they're playing the game, and you just kind of look at the tape, I really like what I'm seeing out of him. He had a really great game against Georgia Tech where he averaged 9.1 yards per carry. Against Cal, they went to double overtime. He had 21 carries for 176 yards. I just really like the way he runs, man. He's like a bigger guy that runs like a smaller guy. He's 219 pounds, but he just kind of slips out of tackles. He spins and jukes his way out of contact. He reportedly is hurdling guys in practice. I think he's a very creative runner. He's using everything in his arsenal. He's got kind of like if you're playing one of those old school fighting arcade games, he's hitting all the buttons to try to avoid tackles. And that's what I like the most about him, because when you watch him run, I think there's a more talented running back in there than just the stats show. So I think that he's floating under radars, although I did, before this recording tonight, I searched him on Twitter, and I think one of the more prominent, I think it was NFL Draft Files, is one of the Twitter accounts that's pretty big in the Devy space and scouting space, actually had him as one of the top running backs to potentially go into the draft. I'm not sure that he does. He's had a lot of injuries in his history, and I think he wants to get a little bit more consistency on tape before he enters into the draft. But it would be nice to see him in a scheme where he gets a little bit more opportunity than being kind of thwarted by a Jalen Hurts type aspect. Everybody always talks about Saquon needs more touchdowns because Jalen's always taking them. Seems like that kind of thing is going on at Virginia Tech right now. But when you look at the tape, man, I really like what I'm seeing out of him.
Yeah, I think that's a good example of why you need to have both sides of the blade sharpened, right? Analytics don't tell the full story, right? Numbers may not lie, but they don't paint the full picture. So that's great context to bring in there with film. I'm not very familiar with him. He's one that I need to go watch more. I did watch that double overtime game versus Cal, though, like 160 plus yards. PFF said that he had 117 of those yards after contact. So just a little bowling ball out there, 220 pounds. Fun player, man. Fun player. So one that I'm going to have to go back and watch.
Absolutely. We will move up to our second to last tier, the purple belt.
Yes, sir. Purple belt says featured back potential meeting real-time consistency. Running backs who have turned athletic upside into tangible impact. They have shown reliability in volume, efficiency, or pass game utility, even if their teams employ a committee approach. Their path to mastery is visible. One more stretch of sustained performance could elevate them into black belt territory. They are Devy assets with high-end NFL upside, now backed by evidence, not theory. So that to me, Chris, like when I was doing this, I immediately thought of Justice Haynes. Because as we know, Justice Haynes was one, at least for me, I had on my yellow belt tier over the course of the offseason because I knew that he had the pedigree. I wasn't sure what was going on with the scheme there in Bama. I wasn't sure. But I knew that Justice Haynes was talented as hell. And we've seen that, man. We've seen that so much when he's been fully healthy. Every single game that he was played in this year, he has rushed for well over 100 yards. Chev gave him we did our show on Sunday. Chev came out with a pretty cool nickname for him, man. It's like a 1950s baseball era name. He's calling him Home Run Haynes.
I love
Home
that.
Run Haynes. Yeah, man.
That's a
Like
great
that
one.
just it's a great name and it fits him like to a T because that's what he does. Like there's a game, I believe it was against Oklahoma, coming right out of the half, 75 yards to the house. He has that on his tape. So many 50+ yard runs. Dude is blazing fast. He's so fast that he erases like those pursuit angles and safeties trying to bear down on him. He's just too fast. They can't even get a hand on him. 50% breakaway percentage is just insane. And again, points to that home run ability. It's a real shame about the injuries. And look, I still haven't seen if it's confirmed if he broke his foot or not, but it's looking like he might be out for the season. But that's a shame to see, man, because he was looking like one of those top end running backs for 2026. I think he would have been an early day two if he declared. He still might declare. I'm not sure, but even only having played 7 games on the season, which is really like 6.5 because he got hurt during that USC game, he has 857 rushing yards on the year, which is 8th best in the Power 4, 10 touchdowns, which is tied for 5th best in the Power 4. So, I mean, like I said, Chris, he could stay or he could declare. And it's that age-old question, should I stay or should I go? And I want to know, Chris, do you think that Justice Haynes should declare for the draft? Do you think he's done enough for that? Or do you think he should stay at school?
I do, because I have him on my black belt here, anticipating that he will go into the draft because of the lack of overall talent in the running backs coming out of this class. I think he's a top 3 back in this class. I think he's done enough this year to make somebody take swing at him in day 2. I think he's very talented. I love the top end speed. I love that nickname too, by the way. That's amazing. Home Run Haynes.
Home Run Haynes, baby.
We talked about Jordan Marshall being great. We talked about that backfield. He's just looked phenomenal all season. So I think that he's shown enough against enough quality talent that somebody will hopefully encourage him to enter the draft, and somebody in the draft will say, I'm taking him because we need some running back talent, a little bit of juice in the backfield. So maybe he comes back, but I'm being bullish on him. I'm projecting him to come out. And if that's the case, I want to get my hands on him. He's high priority for me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if he makes it to the draft, he's one I'm going to have a lot of shares of because I love the kid, man. I love that game breaking ability. Like anytime you could get a running back that offers that spike week potential, you take him. Because I'm telling you, I've won so many matchups. I've won so many championships on the backs of these type of running backs on my dynasty teams in redraft. Whatever it is, I look for that, and so any chance that I get, boy, you better believe I'm going to take it. So love the man, but let's move on to your next running back on the purple belt here.
Yeah, speaking of spike weeks, man, Isaac Brown is an absolute stud. And I know this is one of your guys too, so I don't want to talk too long about him because I know that you've got a lot of passion for him, but he has just been phenomenal this season. He's another, potential home run Brown, right? Like this guy is a lightning rod. Any given play could go to the house with him. He's been phenomenal this year. I know he's a top 10 running back on PFF on the year. 111 carries, 90 carries, 776 yards, which is a great 8.6 yards per attempt. 5 touchdowns rushing on the year. He does have 2 fumbles, which, we talked a little bit about fumbles, but I'm not overly concerned with that. Just when you talk about the overall profile, you want those big spike weeks out of your running backs. And I think that he can do that for you, not only in CFF leagues and C2C leagues, but also in the NFL when he gets there. He's got 40 missed tackles forced on the year, 5.12 yards after contact per attempt, which is phenomenal. I mean, that's like elite territory. This is a guy who doesn't say no. He doesn't go down easy, and he takes it to the house on the reg. So this is the kind of guy that you want to see on your dynasty rosters, without a doubt.
Without a doubt, man. And look, he has been nicked up a little bit this season. He's only played 7 games so far on the season, but I'm still high on Isaac Brown. Like I've seen his value dip for whatever reason, but I think people are just so reactionary in nature. It's like I don't see him playing. I'm gonna move him down a little bit, but not me. I'm still very high on him. he, like you said, he has 90 carries for an 8.6 yards per attempt. So his efficiency is off the charts. 65% breakaway percentage, 2 rushing touchdowns of over 70 yards. Like that home run threat, definitely. Between his 5'9" frame, his rushing style, and the efficiency, it all makes me think of Devon Achane, who was a guy that I was very, very high on pre-draft. So whenever I watch him play, even like his running style, man, it just looks like Achane out there. And I think that should excite you for when he's ready to hit your dynasty rosters in that vaunted 2027 class. I'm all in on this dude, man. I think
I was
that
going to
he's
drop
gonna
an
be...
Achane comp, but I think I got that from you. So I was like, I'm going to let him do that.
Yeah, you definitely did. I've been calling him Achane for a while, so for sure.
Without a doubt. Tell us a little bit about Emmett Johnson. This is the guy who you put on my radar this week, and I admittedly need to do a little bit more watching of film on him, but everything I saw was very exciting.
Yeah, you need to watch him ASAP. Like, you need to prioritize this. And I know
For sure,
Nebraska hasn't been the funnest watch this season, but Emmett Johnson has just become their go-to player for everything. Like, he is the offense. 5'11", 200 pounds. He's rushed for 203 rushing attempts for 1,131 yards, 11 touchdowns, and only 1 fumble. Going back to week 1 against Cincinnati, he rushed for 108 yards, and that's when I put him in my book of secrets, and I've been tracking him ever since. And I was like, I need to put out some tweets and stuff on this dude because he's going off, dude. He looks incredible. He's so much fun to watch. He's patient behind his offensive line, and he could hit that hole when just the slightest little crease appears. He's a silky smooth runner out there. He's got 7 feet in traffic, and he's just so damn shifty and elusive, Chris. Like, the tape on this guy, man, I implored you to really watch him a little bit. A little while ago. And I'm telling all of you, the listeners, if you have not watched him play, do yourselves a favor and go out and check him out. But for as fun as the tape is, his numbers show just how dominant he's been. Emmett Johnson leads the country in rushing yards with 1,131 yards, 6 rushing yard performances out of 10 games played. So 6 out of the 10 games played rushed for over 100 yards. Emmett Johnson has 55 missed tackles forced, which ranks 5th best in the entire country. Like, that's the stat that we always look for, because it's a metric that shows you, like, independent of your line, can you make a dude miss? And he at 200 pounds, he runs with a lot more physicality than you would anticipate. And I don't think he has like elite, like, he doesn't have Justice Haynes breakaway speed, but he has enough to get those big chunk yardages. And he's so shifty. I think I hope you at least saw the tweet that I sent out. He does a lot of good work out of the back, like in the receiving game, out of the backfield. But he's just so shifty, man. And that's why he racks up those missed tackles forced numbers. Shifty and elusive, like he could set blocks up well down the field. He really does it all. He's a highlight machine, and he's literally doing it all for Nebraska. People need to be talking more about this man because he's draft eligible. And right now he's moved into a top 4 running back for me. And I do want to push him over somebody that I have ranked higher. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit. I think outside of Jeremiah Love, he would profile to me as the best receiving back in this class, just behind Jeremiah Love.
I love that.
Yeah, so please, I implore all of you, go check out this man. I don't know why he's not getting a lot of buzz, but he should be, because the dude is just incredible.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Like you said, I'm going to have to do a little bit more research on him, because it sounds like he's great. And I did see your tweet, and I'm glad you put him on my radar, because he's not a name that you hear too much of. And when you hear Emmett and running back, you have to, your ears perk up a little bit, right?
Yeah. And leading the country in so many metrics, like over 1,000 yards already, you need to be onto him.
He's a sneaky one. You heard it here first at the dojo. My last guy here on the purple belt here is Le'Veon Moss, who's another guy who I feel like, he's a name that a lot of people have heard, but I feel like he's not getting a ton of buzz. But surely, if you're an Aggies fan, you know who this is, and you're wondering why people aren't talking about him more. I know he's been a little bit banged up as well this season, but when I look at him, man, I just see an NFL running back. Like, he looks like a prototypical running back that NFL GMs are looking for. He's 5'11", 210 pounds with some great speed. But what I love about him is just the overall, he brings that swagger to the field, right? He's got that hard hitting, hitting the holes really, really hard, tough to bring down, right at the line of scrimmage. If he's getting involved in some contact, he can break through pretty easily. He's got that home run ability. There was or I think it was last season, actually, if we're going back to 2024, he had a nice 75-yard touchdown, I want to say. And afterwards, somebody told him to talk about it. And he said, you know what? I can't even tell you what happened because I was just balling, man. Like, he didn't even remember the play. He's like, I'm just out here balling. And that's what I think he brings. He brings that old school mentality where as soon as the rock touches his hands, he wants to take it as far as he can. And I love that about him. I think that he's still kind of floating a little bit under everybody's radars. And I think he's a name to watch in the upcoming draft as a potential riser. You know, whenever we see maybe the combine roll around and he shows what he's made of, or if he gets that draft capital that we're anticipating or that I'm anticipating, I think there's a good shot that he ends up in a nice position to be an instant impact player at the NFL level. 3 touchdowns against Notre Dame earlier this year. And in the games around that, like Auburn, he put up 139 yards and a touchdown for 6.6 yards per carry. Like, he's had some great tape. He's just not been playing lately because he's been banged up. So that's, I think, keeping him suppressed a little bit. But for me, he deserves to be in the purple belt tier because of what he's done before and what he's shown. And like I said, I have a high suspicion that he's going to be a big riser come draft season.
Excellent. We'll see. So what specifically, what type of draft capital are you projecting for Le'Veon Moss?
I could see him being a round 3 guy.
Yeah.
You know, one of those guys where once we're anticipating probably Love is the only round 1 guy this year, right? And then I think maybe only 1 or 2 are really worthy of like solid round 2 capital in this upcoming draft. But once a couple of those guys go, I think that there's a handful of players in the draft that are going to start, you know, getting their names picked off here in round 3 and into round 4, because, you know, once they say, there's some running backs I like, GMs are like, that guy's gone, let's go up and get our guys that we want right now. So I could see him being a round 3 guy, and that's the kind of capital that you really want and need to expect for some of these running backs in the modern NFL, because gone are the days where we've got 5 running backs taken in the first round, right? So if you're talking round 3, it doesn't sound great if you're an old head like us and you're thinking historically, but that's pretty good for modern day NFL.
Yeah, modern day, you know, day 2 draft cap is good enough. Like, that's a pretty heavy investment for these teams at that position, I think. So I love it, man. I love it. But let's go ahead and move on to our last belt here, our black belt. And black belt is the rare running back who combines elite traits with proven dominance. These backs have delivered sustained, high-level production against quality competition, commanding heavy workloads, creating explosive plays, and thriving in all phases. Their vision, balance, and receiving skill translate on tape every week. They are no longer projections. They are verified workhorses with early-round NFL futures firmly in view. And of course, I would be remiss if I did not begin this with Jeremiah Love. I think have to, right? Like, he is clearly, to me, the crown jewel of the 2026 Dynasty rookie class. We just recently did that mock on Substack, and last few mocks that we've done, we've pretty confidently put Jeremiah Love there. He's a guy. I got a couple dynasty teams with the number 1 overall pick, it's looking like, and I can't wait to add Jeremiah Love to those rosters. Like, it's been business as usual with him. In terms of this season, he's just a threat in all aspects of the game. I really don't have very many notes. He's a 3-down. He's a workhorse out there. He's able to do it all. Now, Notre Dame has done a really good job of limiting his touches, right? They've always had a Jadarian Price out there with them. Last season, you know, they had the quarterback rushing as well. So they've always done a good job of keeping the tires a little fresh, which I love, because anytime you have a back like this who's explosive, who's highly efficient, you don't want to run him down too much, right? You don't want to wear him down. Leave him out there to provide those big plays. And boy, man, talking about big plays, just a couple weeks against Boston College, I believe it was, he had a 94-yard touchdown where everybody's seen this highlight by now, I'm sure. Running down the sidelines, and you see him look at the sideline while he's moving. And it's kind of like he's letting him know, like, yeah, bro, I'm him. I'm out here and I'm doing my thing. This is easy to me, right? Like, he's running like they're little boys out there, and he's just so much faster than everybody. And he's one of those guys that's like, he's moving so fast that he doesn't really look like he's moving that fast, right? But he is, you know, that he's got the burners on, and, you know, film and the analytics all show an elite player. Chris, is he the 101 for you in rookie drafts?
Without a doubt, I think that he is one of the better prospects we've seen in recent years. I might even say he's a better prospect than Ashton Genty. I think
Me
he's
too.
probably, he's not quite a Bijan level or a Saquon level, but we're talking like Brees Hall level of kind of prospect that you want to go after. And there's a lot of good receivers in this upcoming class. However, there's nobody with a truly, truly elite ceiling like Jeremiah Love brings. So for me, he's 101. Like you said, he could do it all. I got a nice taste of him last year in the playoffs, seeing what he could do against my boys. And ever since then, I've been, it's been a love-hate relationship because I love him from a Devy aspect and I hate him for what he's done to me. So I'm looking forward to seeing him in the NFL for sure. And I agree. I think that the way that they're utilizing him at Notre Dame makes a lot of sense to kind of look at his future, right? I don't think that we're going to see a guy who gets an absolute dominating, unheard of workhorse backfield share, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Look at him. I mean, he's got 154 carries on the year and 13 touchdowns and almost 1,000 yards. I mean, this is an efficient running back. He doesn't need to have the ball that much. You want to keep him healthy, keep him on the field, use him as a weapon that he is. So he's phenomenal. He's great to watch. He's kind of been floating right in that, top elite tier. He's been the number one running back for sure for everybody in the Devy community coming into this class. And now I think he's making a case certainly for 101. And it seems like we're both in alignment there.
Yeah, he's on a crash course to be a first-round running back. Like, I have no doubts. In fact, I fully anticipate him to be an NFL first-round draft pick. So I love it, man. Speaking of that run against Penn State last season, man, I can't get it out of my head. Like, it was only 2 yards or so, but the amount of defenders that were around him, he was banged up a little bit. Abdul Carter was out there and just pushing and driving and doing everything that he could to get into the end zone. It really speaks to the heart of Jeremiah Love. And I know that scouts are going to fall in love with him, man. I can't wait to see him at the next level. I absolutely, completely agree with you. I have not said this out loud. I have not put this on paper. I have not put this on air. But I do have him ahead of where Ashton Genty was last season, assuming he gets that first-round draft cap. But I have him ahead of Ashton Genty because I think that he just offers more in the receiving game. And hopefully he goes to a team that's going to, make that a priority in his game next season in the pros.
Yeah, I think if he falls out of the top 15, it'll be a little shocking. And if he's not taken by like 20, it's probably going to be a big upset for me, at least. I think he's that talented. So somebody's going to take him pretty early in my book.
Yeah, I can't see him getting past Minnesota.
Ooh, that would be a great one. I love wish casting. Jonah Coleman is next. And you'll see here, if you're looking at our tier list on YouTube, that we are very similar here in the top tier, the black belt. Jonah Coleman, Jeremiah Love, and Ahmad Hardy are all sharing the black belt tier for both me and Dustin. Jonah Coleman is one who we've talked about a lot. Early in the season, he absolutely flashed, right? He showed what he has as a ceiling. We've talked about him losing weight. I think in the offseason, I compared him to Maurice Jones-Drew because he looked like that bowling ball type running back. And then he lost like 15 pounds, and he's able to do a lot more this year than he was doing last year as a result. And he's getting more involved in the receiving game. He's taken some receptions to the house. He looks like an all-around type of back that you want to invest in from a Devy community, and the NFL coaches want to say, we can plug and play him right now. Even if there's a veteran there, if there's a Ramondre Stevenson type, or, one of those guys who's not threatening, but is one of the guys that does things well. I think that's the kind of backfield that would make a lot of sense for him to land in, where he doesn't have to be the one true guy right off the start, but he can start to learn the NFL game a little bit, adapt to the, advanced speed and defenses, and get a little taste here and there. So I don't think he's going to be necessarily a league winner in year one, but I think that long-term he's got a really, really high ceiling. And as we, project him to be potential round 2 running back, he's firmly the number 2 running back in this class for me.
Yeah, I still have him as my running back 2 in the class as well. I've talked a lot about Jonah Coleman. I feel like I was in on him before the masses were, so I love to see him doing well. 645 yards, 13 touchdowns. The yardage isn't the highest amongst some of his peers when you compare them, and he has slowed down a little bit, pretty considerably from his red hot start to the season. it's slightly concerning, and I did consider moving him down, but I stood firm because I've seen enough on tape for me to confidently claim him as that running back 2 in the 2026 NFL draft. But I have to admit, man, my guy Emmett Johnson, he's catching up for me to put him in this tier. Like I really struggled with that. Do I put Emmett Johnson up because of the proximity to the draft and his production and all the metrics, those benchmarks that we look for? But look, Jonah Coleman, he's shown that he's the bulldozer with ballerina feet. His ability to cut and be surprisingly elusive pairs so well with that vision, and his ability to set up blocks down the field with that wiggle. So are you at all concerned, Chris, or is his profile pretty solidified for you?
Only moderately. And I say that because when I see something out of somebody, I know that they have that in them, right? And that's why I say that it's probably good for him to go somewhere with a vet where he doesn't have to have, like we've seen what happened to Genty right now, right? Like he's got everything on his shoulders and it's not going so well. And he's in a pretty bad offense and he's in a rough situation. I don't want to see that out of Jonah Coleman. I think that he's going to have a nice slow burn start to the NFL, and that ultimately the ceiling that we see and what we saw earlier this season is something that might make him a riser, from the point of the draft. Maybe he dips a little bit and then rises again as his career projects out. So I do like the talent there. He's in that murky sort of tier where he's definitely a black belt for us based on the way we're projecting things. But there's a world where there's, some of those running backs that went into the draft last year maybe stick around, and he's a little bit further down on people's boards this year because of the overall lack of talent at the running back position. He's locked into RB2 for me from what I've seen.
Another guy that we got right here, we both share is Ahmad Hardy. So why don't you go ahead? I want you to take the lead on this. Tell me what you got on Ahmad Hardy.
He's looked fantastic for sure. I mean, we talked about him. I don't think he even made my tiers on our episode 2 back in the offseason, but he has looked fantastic as a transfer. He's everything that I was hoping Mekhi Hughes would be at Oregon, right? Mekhi Hughes was a guy who I was much more bullish on back on our earlier episode, and I expected good things for him at Oregon, and we've all seen how that's turned out. But Ahmad Hardy's sitting at 172 carries for over 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns on the year. Good for a 6.1 average. He just looks like a fantastic pure runner right now. That entire Missouri team has just been fun to watch all year. They're one of the teams that I like to tune in the most just because him and Bo Perbula, like it's just been a fantastic team to watch offensively. And I think he's really solidified himself with his production so far this year. And, the shiftiness, the speed, the breakaway ability, everything that he's put on tape so far makes him an early contender for me to be the number 1 running back in next year's potential draft.
Let's go. Like that.
Love it.
That's beautiful, man. In my notes, I literally have him. He's my early 2027 RB1. I mean, and how could you not? How could you not at this point with everything that he's shown on the season? Already over 1,000 yards. Look, let's put it this way, Chris. Of all the running backs that we have here, there's only 2 that have hit 1,000 yards so far, and that's Emmett Johnson and Ahmad Hardy. And like Ahmad Hardy, dude, to me, I've told you this before. My comp for him is Mark Ingram because of that hard-nosed running style, feet always churning. He's always going to get those goal line looks. Like that's where he's going to make his money in the NFL because he's always going to be able to push forward, keep moving his feet, and get those gritty touchdowns for a team. Think like David Montgomery, that kind of archetype. I don't know if he's that big with his frame, but very exciting, very good stuff. 65 missed tackles forced are the second best in the country now. He was leading the country for the majority of the season, but he's been passed up by the next guy on my tier list.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, if you look at the stats from last year at UL Monroe, he's going to pace all of those. He's pacing to beat all of those. He's going to break all of the records he set for himself last year in his freshman year at a much lesser school. So that just speaks volumes of what he's doing at the SEC right now. He's just astounding to watch. He's a lot of fun. Well-deserving black belt here.
Thank you. Well, we already talked about Justice Haynes, so I'm going to finish it off with the last one that I have here. And I already kind of alluded to it, but Mr. Kwan Lacey now leads the country in missed tackles forced with 71 on the season. He's currently my RB2 for 2027, so that's why I kind of got him up here this high. And Chris, you were talking to me like, I need to watch more Ole Miss. Yeah, you do, because he's so much fun. He's been a big riser. He's just been able to consistently move the chains for this offense. And he's not like a true home run threat, but he's going to consistently make those 10 to 15-yard chunk plays. It's been shown this season he has 16 rushing touchdowns. And one thing about Lane Kiffin, man, he knows how to find good running backs. And you could see that this is the piece in the offense that Lane Kiffin's been missing since Quinshon Judkins was there. And actually, with how he runs, Lacey actually reminds me a lot of Judkins in this offense. Like I said, man, leads the nation with 71 missed tackles forced, and he's just a treat to watch, dude. He did transfer from Missouri last season. Can you imagine if Mizzou still had Kawan Lacey and Ahmad Hardy on the same team this season? We were this close to that happening.
That's crazy. Yeah. Absolutely insane. And he's leading the nation in touchdowns right now, too, with 16. Just a true stud.
Yeah, close to 1,000 yards. Like, he's right there. Like I said, RB2 for me, early RB2 for me in the 2027 draft class.
That's a bit of a miss by me. I should have had him firmly more on my radar.
Yeah, he's number 1 in missed tackles force now. He's at 71. He passed Ahmad Hardy.
Crazy, yeah.
Look, if you've been rocking with us here at the dojo, if you enjoyed this episode, you need to do me a favor right now. Lock in, subscribe, like the content. It helps us grow. It helps push this out to other people who really enjoy this type of stuff. And it's all free. We're giving you Substack, quality content, 3 weekly articles every week, all for free. We do it as a passion project from us to you in the dojo. And look, we got one of the best communities out there, free Discord as well. If you want all of this, the best way to find it, one, I'm going to have it linked in the description, or you can hit my Twitter at Empire Elite FF. I do have a link tree that has everything that we're working on here in the dojo. So from us to you, we will see you next time in the dojo.
We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to FantasySportsAdvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to FantasySportsAdvice.com today.